What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blitz of Books. Happy Wednesday, Mike. How's it going?
Happy hump day. I tell you what, Wade, I'll be honest with you. I'd love to tell you I'm doing well, but kind of crying the blues a little bit, man, tearing our beer. Had a rough week overall of betting, but as I tell our clients, it's called gambling for a reason, baby. Bet conservatively. You're going to have those downturns. Unfortunately, happened to our show last week. So, what a bummer.
Yeah, as we all know, we've been doing this for a few years now, at least on the YouTube streets, and we're not going to be profitable every show. We're definitely not going to be profitable every week. And we have been on an incredible run up until last week. We were 32 and 17. Had hit 65% of our plays. Last week we met our maker. We finally had the worst week of the season. We both went 0 and 2. Now that has actually dropped us. We're still 32 and 21 sounds great, but that dropped us from a whopping 65% to now 60%. So we're have to
Woo!
gain that 5% back here over the coming bowl games and the college football playoffs, which I do think that we will be able to do. We profited pretty well last year on the bowl games, and I know we will find some good angles to attack this year. Let's do a quick recap of last week. Mike gave out Alabama first half plus 2.5 minus 124. That one missed, and then Virginia first half minus 1.5 minus 112. That one also missed, and then I did Georgia Alabama over 47.5 minus 114. If Alabama had just come with a little bit of offense, they would have helped us cash both of those, and we would have went 2 and 2 for the week. So,
Oh,
pretty tough there. And then I don't know. I did give out North Texas money line. Once I took the play, I really did start to regret that. I have been a Tulane backer all season long. We cashed their future team total win future beginning of the season. So I was always high on Tulane. We should have just stayed off that game. I'm not sure what really dragged me into that Tulane or that Texas game, but we did talk about if you like the Tulane side to go ahead and side with Mikey on the +3 as he was on that. So if you want to, I guess we really could have went 1 and 4 last week, which Mike
yeah.
did. Mike was on the other side there, so but that's all right. It's good to have a losing week. It kind of snaps us back into reality and relocks us back in. I think maybe we were floating a little too high there. So let's see what we can do this week. We're going to break down the two games. We've got Army versus Navy and then Boise State versus Washington. I'm going to go ahead and break down this Army Navy game and then let Mike talk about the Washington game. Army
Let's go.
versus Navy, this is one of the most disciplined, unpredictable, and historic matchups in college football. The numbers point one way, history points the other, and the line movement might tell us just another story. So let's break this one down where it really matters. Both teams still run variations of the option, and as usual, rushing is the identity here. But with, I think, gaps that are quite noticeable this season. Navy ranks number one in the country in rushing at 298 yards per game, and Army sits pretty close behind, but still trails at a 256 yards per game. Through the air, neither team is very explosive, but Navy has been more comfortable throwing when needed. Mike did not acknowledge that they're throwing right around 18 and 19 passes per game, so it is up from previous years, almost double the passing yard production of Army that Navy has produced this season. So that is a pretty big step up in their little shift in offensive identity, which I actually think will continue to in years to come. I do think Navy's going to start looking to pass the ball a little bit more. But where this matchup tightens is execution metrics. Third down conversion rate, Army sits at 40%. Navy sits at 49.6%, which is top 15 in the country. Red zone efficiency, Army sits at 82.9%, while Navy sits at 87.5%. So Navy is not just moving the ball more consistently, they're turning drives into a few more points at a higher rate. Now with some defensive comparisons here. Defensively, Army has struggled against the run at times this season, while Navy has been much stronger in the trenches. Navy ranks top 5 nationally in sacks allowed and QB hits allowed, which means their offense more than likely stays ahead of schedule a little more often than Army's does. Army's defense gives up right around 209 passing yards and 147 rushing yards, while Navy's defense is a little bit stiffer against the run. When both teams run the ball this much, controlling the trenches does become a little bit more important. Um, Common opponents, looking at that here, Army went 3 and 2 against shared opponents, and Navy went 4 and 1 with double-digit wins in several of those games. Navy tended to score more and allow fewer, showing a little bit more consistency, which I think we both can agree Navy's the better team in this matchup. The betting market has been a little bit interesting here. A look ahead line in June, Mike was -3. I know you like to look at that as kind of just a key metric to keep an eye on. Reopened -4.5, and I think it's pretty much steadily climbed. So we can be pretty sure here that sharp money has hit Navy at the -4.5 and probably the -5, -5.5 line because now we are sitting at Navy -6, even -6.5, depending on what book you look at. It looks like public is pretty heavy on Navy, right around 79% of the tickets and 86% of the money. But I think the move from -3 to -6.5, as we've talked about, suggests that Sharps hit that early, and I'm not really sure it's worth chasing at this point. On the total, it opened around 38.5. It did jump briefly up to 39.5, but it has trickled back down into the 38.5 range, and it's kind of been sitting there. But what is interesting is I do think books are taking they're juicing the under here, so I think respected bettors are pushing towards the under a little bit here, kind of like a typical Army Navy 17-10 type of game script books you're looking at. Historically, 16 of the last 18 meetings have stayed under. But the style, like we talked about, the
Wow.
style of play has shifted a little bit the last 2 or 3 years, which we talked off air. The 2 of the last 3 years we have gone over. I think the over is 2-0-1 where they landed on the number. So taking an under, I guess, if you want to look at short term thinking, it's not really a good play. The over is where the play really is at. We do also like to talk about power rankings and strength of schedule a little bit here. We like to factor that into our handicapping. Army sitting at 90th in power rating with a little tougher schedule at 76, while Navy's power rated is a little bit higher at 68. But their strength of schedule was outside of the top 100, sitting at right at 107 according to Sagarin. So while Navy has been the more complete team statistically, Army might be the little bit might more tested team here. Um, Final thoughts here. Mike, the game is shaping up to be one where I think matchups edge favor the Navy midshipmen here, and especially in sustained drives and red zone execution. Army strength of schedule and familiarity with Navy's system could keep them into a tighter game. The books are going to shade to the under. Obviously, they think the game's going to be a little bit closer than a runaway game as we saw last year, where Navy won 31-17. The betting market clearly believes Navy should be more than a field goal favorite here. I think we both can agree with that. 4 to 4.5 is probably where we both like the game to sit. If I had to choose today, right now, I think I would side with the under 39. You can get that at -118 on some books, and then I think I would probably side with Navy -5.5, -116 right now. But if that thing does pop up to +7, like we talked about before, that could possibly be the best play in the game. I guess right now, as we don't have any official play in this game, check back on both of our social medias. One of us may post a play before game time, and you can get that play with us if we end up playing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's me, man. I'm taking the old wait and see approach here. As we sit in that dead zone, you nailed it. That it opened in a dead zone. That 4.5. The 4.5 to
Yeah.
5.5 is just a weird range to be in. I actually made the line Navy -4, so I see it. I see a touch of value on Army, but I'm not rushing to the window to
Yeah.
bet it just because Navy's clearly a better team. But at 7, I'm probably going to be tempted to take the points, the full touchdown, with a total so low, like we talked about in that 38, 39 range. Could definitely see a 21-17 type of final here with Navy winning. Just a weird it's a beautiful game to watch. I mean, it does bring a tear to my eye watching these guys. These are the real heroes out there that serve our country, brave men. Really respect all the service academies, but love watching this game just as a fan and as a appreciator of our great military. But as far as handicapping the game, it's just tough because they know each other well. They both run the option. You hit on a lot of good things there, big weight. It's tough to pick a side right now. I'd lean Army, but definitely wouldn't play it unless it hit 7. I don't know if it's going to get there though. Like you said, it is 6.5 at a handful of books, 6 at some of the sharper shops. If they hang the 7, I may have to dabble in it, but right now I'm on the sidelines.
Yeah, the one thing that might keep me off the +7, which I may still get to it, but as we talked about off air yesterday, back in the 2010s, Navy did have Army's number there for a minute, and twice there they beat Army by double digits, and then the following year they did come back and win by 6 and by 7. I think that might be right where we ended. I think this game is definitely going to be somewhere between 4 and 7 points. So I think if you can get that +7 on Army, that really might be the best looking here. Even though we both believe Navy sometimes the best team doesn't always cover. So
especially in a
A lot of
rivalry.
times they don't. Yeah, in this rivalry, the dog, our Army's gonna have a lot to play for. They were supposed to win that game last year, especially having the better quarterback last year, statistically wise. Um, they didn't get it done. So the big turnaround here, but I know we both are pretty high on Blake Horvath. He's a pretty special quarterback. He can make a lot of plays. So this would be a really fun game to watch.
He is.
So
Horvath is a beast, man. I mean, even in a Navy offense that doesn't throw a lot, he threw for almost 1,400 yards. That's saying something. Rush for 1,049 yards, 23 total TDs for Mr. Horvath. So yeah, he's definitely the biggest playmaker on the field here. So I can see why some of the early sharp money was on the middies.
yep. Let's go and let's jump into the other game here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's go the LA Bowl, baby. This is a good one here. I'm looking forward to this one. Kind of weird. This is the earliest I think bowl season has ever started. Normally
Yeah.
they give Army Navy its own day.
Yep.
Kind of weird this year. The LA Bowl is going to be the night game. So we get Army Navy, in the afternoon. Then we get a little bit later. We get Boise State against UW, Washington Huskies, man. And yeah, I made a play on this one actually, Big Wade. I laid the 7.5 when it opened with Washington. Laid 7.5 minus 112 juice. What I paid over at the Score, the former ESPN bet. That's another story for another day. But anyway, yeah, I like UW here, man. More physical team. I'll tell you, kind of why I'm getting into it here. Boise State impressed the heck out of me by giving UNLV their second whipping of the season. Maddox Madsen finally back from injury. Kid is a beast, but man, oh man, it's a tough step up in class for the Broncos. And the Broncos, when they're not on the Smurf turf, they're just not as dangerous of a team. We saw them get throttled when they played USF to start the year. We saw them get throttled when they played Notre Dame. Now, UW is not quite on the level as Notre Dame, but I think they're much better than South Florida. And that's saying something because South Florida had a good football team, man. Washington quietly ran one of the most efficient offenses in the country. Youngster by the name of Desmond Williams Jr. proved to be a nightmare for opposing defenses. Huskies ranked 28th in yards per play. Kid's only 5'11, but my goodness, threw for almost 3,000 yards, responsible for 27 total touchdowns. Big weight. Who is this kid? I'd never heard of him until this year. Know a lot of folks worried, star running back Jonah Coleman. They're expecting him to opt out, and I get that. Maybe that's why this line hadn't quite touched double digits. I really don't care. I know that sounds nuts. I know the kid's a playmaker. He's probably going to, sit out and prepare for the NFL draft. I can't blame him. But even if he does opt out, we got a kid named Adam Muhammad, a freaking beast running behind this excellent O line. He actually forced more missed tackles this season than Coleman. So if Muhammad has to step in, I don't worry one bit about the Huskies' running game. Flip side, big weight. I don't think the Broncos are going to score that much on this UW defense. Huskies have been stout all year long in that 19th against the run, 20th against the pass. So they got no real weaknesses. So I laid the big wood with Washington here to kick off bowl season. I typically don't like to lay points, but man, oh man, I think I made this line. Let me check and see real quick what I made this line. You actually made it Washington minus 11. So for me, laying the 7.5 was the play. As long as you're under double digits, you might want to get on it now because it is moving. We've seen it tick up to 9.5 or so. The client's got it at 7.5. But yeah, I just think this is a good spot for the Huskies to show up. I think Boise might have been partying a little bit too, celebrating that conference title. They get no time off. That was just last Friday night. They get no time off. Got to go right into bowl season. Flip side, Washington had a few weeks to, couple of weeks to take off here. They had a disappointing, performance against Oregon to end the season. But they've had some time off to heal up and ready to roll. I like Jed Fish as well as far as coaching goes. Like the job he's already done there at Washington. Yeah, I laid the big wood here, man. Hopefully it doesn't bite me. That's my first play of bowl season.
Well, I'm gonna be right there with you while you were reading it off, and I had my statistic pulled up. I went over. I was like we talked about off there. I was looking at this game as well. When the first line first opened up, I thought, oh wow, I'd like to be on Washington on this side. Never really got to digging into the numbers just yet, but I did go ahead and just make a play on Washington Huskies minus 7.5. You can get that over at Profit X. Odds aren't great. If you want to, might as well take the -8 at this point. But I went ahead and took the -7.5 and -127. It is best odds right now over on Profit X. Like you said, I mean, yeah, I think there's a couple key things in this game that I really like. I like the fact that Washington converts 50% of their third down conversions on offense. They also convert 92% of their red zone, and I really do think red zone opportunities. And what I really do think here is the fact that this Washington defense, I think, is going to give Boise State offense a little bit of a troubles here. We know Washington State, they rank 21st in the country, allowing just 19 points a game. They're top 56, allowing 82% in the red zone. What I do like about them most is they rank top 20 in yards per play allowed, which is 4.6. I just don't think Boise State's going to be able to move the ball enough and score enough points to keep this within a double-digit win for Washington. They've got to get the taste out of their mouth after that loss to Oregon. I think this is a fantastic spot. So we'll go a quick rundown and then we will get out of here and be back tomorrow with some NFL talk for you. Right now, there is no official play in the Army Navy game. Right now, we both believe that if the Army +7 pops up on your odds screen, that's probably the best look in this game. I'm going to go ahead and side with the under 39 right now for a lean in the total. And again, if you want to get our plays in that game. Perhaps we'll drop one later in the week. Make sure you guys come follow us over on X. And then Mike is going to give out the -7.5 Washington against Boise State. They should be able to cover this number. They've got the better team. They've had the better team all year. Big step up in class for Boise State. Mike, any last words before we get out of here?
No, that's it. Glad to be in bowl season. Let's get a bounce back. We need it this week. We're laser
Yeah.
focused. We're back to doing what we do, crunching numbers. It's just all part of the game, man. You got to just bet conservatively. Be prepared for a wild ride. But hey, there's no such thing as a sure thing investment, guys. It's going to be a wild ride, but it's a fun ride. I'd much rather invest in sports than some of the stock or bond market big way. It's a lot more fun on this side of the track.
Absolutely. So let's go 1-0 this week with our only official play being Washington -7.5, as we are both on that to give you guys some confidence. And as again, we'll be back tomorrow with NFL. Hopefully, I get a little bit better, get this bug out of me, and tomorrow we'll be free and clear and ready to give you guys some either. We're going to come this week with the NFL game line video and then NFL prop video. So
Nice.
be watching out for those, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Nice. Y'all be good.